There are thousands of non-US business owners sitting on the sidelines right now, missing out on premium American credit cards, missing out on 0% interest funding at 6 figures, missing out on building US credit that can unlock millions in opportunities because of one simple thing that they do not have. And it's not what you think. It's not capital, it's not connections, it's not being in America. It's a 9-digit number called a ITIN. This video is going to change everything for you because in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what an ITIN is, why you need one, and the 3 ways you can get one without stepping foot in America, without being a US citizen, and without paying American taxes. But here's what most people don't realize. Every day you wait to get your ITIN, you're falling behind. Because unlike most government-based documents, an ITIN becomes more valuable the longer you hold it. The credit card company sees an ITIN that's been active for 3 years much differently than an ITIN that's just brand new. And right now, while you're watching this, my private clients, who are, by the way, non-US residents, non-US business owners, they got their ITIN months ago. Some who are getting approved for the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, who are getting $50,000 American Express Business Gold credit cards, who are accessing the same financial advantages who were once only reserved for Americans. Meanwhile, you're still trying to figure out whether an ITIN is worth it or not. Let me just save you your time. It is. And just so that I can show you some proof right now, this is my ITIN that was received by the IRS a few years ago, and now I've got my hands on American credit cards, and this is absolutely possible for anyone right now to do. But let me just dive into the biggest misconception regarding the ITIN. Here's what most people think when they hear about a ITIN, and by the way, that stands for an individual taxpayer identification number. They think, oh no, I get a US tax number, that means that I need to pay US taxes. That is complete BS. This exact misconception is costing non-US entrepreneurs millions in opportunities. Now here's the truth. As I said, the ITIN is the individual taxpayer identification number. Think of it like a social security number, but for non-US citizens. It's just an identifier. It's a way for the IRS, the banks, and the credit card companies to know who you are when you file anything. But here's the key part that most people are missing. Having a ITIN does not create a US tax obligation. What creates a US tax obligation is earning US sourced income or having a certain type of business that has a real active location in America. And of course, there's other details when it comes to taxes, which I broke down in other videos. But with the right LLC structure, our private clients are, in fact, a large majority of them are paying no US taxes. They have their ITIN and they have access to American credit cards, American loans, the American financial system, payment processing, banking, without paying US taxes. The ITIN is just the key that unlocks this American financial system. If you literally want to do anything in the American financial system, like getting a credit card, getting a payment processor, in most cases, they will require that ITIN or SSN. But of course, you're not a US citizen, so you need that ITIN. So what exactly can you do with an ITIN? Well, first, it creates a legal financial presence in the United States. Without an ITIN, the IRS, the banks, the credit card companies have no idea who you are. They have no idea how to identify you within their system. Payment processors like Stripe won't approve your applications because you're not identified within that financial system. But with an ITIN, you suddenly exist. You can apply for premium American credit cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, Amex Platinum, and whatnot. You can start building a US credit history. But here's what most non-US business owners don't even realize. The earlier you get your ITIN, the better. Because banks track how long you've been integrated in the American financial system. So a 3-year-old ITIN carries much more weight than a brand new one. It shows stability. It shows that you're serious about building a long-term relationship with US financial institutions. Think of it like this. Would you rather hire someone that's just moved in town yesterday or someone who's been in the community for years? The same principle applies for an ITIN. Now here's where it gets interesting. Your ITIN can actually expire. If you get an ITIN and you do nothing with it for the next 2 years, no US filings, no bank activity, no credit applications, the IRS will deactivate it and then you'll need to renew that specific ITIN. That's why that I believe that getting an ITIN as soon as possible is important to do, but you also need to have a plan on what exactly you're gonna do with that identification number, such as opening up bank accounts, applying for your credit cards, getting a payment processors, having a real business that can take advantage of these American financial products. Now, since I've spoken about these 3 myths about the ITIN, now let's talk about the 3 ways which you can get your ITIN ITIN. And two of those methods, in my opinion, are honestly terrible for non-US entrepreneurs. So after helping more than 500 plus clients get their hands on their own ITIN, there are exactly 3 ways you can get your ITIN, and I'm going to be brutally honest about each individual one. So the first way to get your ITIN is actually to fill out a form. So that means you got to gather your documents, your W-7, your passport and whatnot, and you've got to mail everything directly to the IRS. So again, as I said, this includes your original passport. You cannot give them a scanned copy. And that again is your actual physical passport that you need to travel. So you're literally mailing the most important identification document that you need in your life. So for non-US business owners, you're already like, yeah, probably I'm not going to do this, but let me just give you all the details. And the processing time for this is going to be between 3 to 4 months. And if there's only a tiny error on your application, one box not ticked right, the IRS will send back all of your documents with a declined ITIN application, and you'll need to start over. I've seen people mail these documents to the IRS to wait 6 months and receive back a ITIN decline application. So personally, I wouldn't go for this option, but at least you know that that's available to you. So now let's get on to the second method to get your ITIN, and that is actually to visit the United States at a IRS-based office in person. So you bring your documents in person, and they will verify your information and whatnot on the spot, and then they will typically mail that approved ITIN to whichever address that you give them. But of course, the waiting time will be the same as if you just mailed it in person. But here's what most people don't tell you about this process. Just flying to America for most non-US business owners and most clients of ours, they're going to spend about $2,000 for hotels, flights, and whatnot. And so in my opinion, that's not the most practical way to go about this, because again, you got to travel, you got to get out of your way to actually go to the United States, maybe miss out on a few days of actually being able to work on your business, and then travel back to your home country and need to wait several weeks to get back your ITIN number. So now let's talk about the third way, which actually honestly makes the most sense for me, which is working with a certified acceptance agent. These are companies that are IRS authorized to review and submit your ITIN application. So the real advantage that you get here is that you get to do this whole process remotely. They notarize your passport, so you don't have to send your physical passport. You get to stay put in your home country wherever you are, and basically a CAA, a certified acceptance agent, will take care of the whole process. And so pretty much the CAA handles everything. And so people will ask, well, what's the typical cost for a service like this? Because again, this is a third party that is IRS authorized that will do it on their behalf. And of course, there's many companies that offer these kind of services. What I've seen on Google is between $300 to $500 when it comes to this IRS service fee. And really, when you think about it, for not risking your passport to be sent in the mail, not even having that passport available to you for you to travel, and making sure that those ITIN applications actually get approved, it's actually pretty reasonable. And me personally, when I got my ITIN, I paid like a separate organization to do this whole thing for me. But here's where you need to be careful. See, the ITIN became so popular that dozens of companies have started offering cheap ITIN services. $250, sometimes even less. Sounds great, right? Well, here's the truth that most budget providers won't even tell you. Most of them, which I've known, and I've done my research by the way, are not even based in the United States. They operate out of India, Pakistan, Thailand, other countries where labor is cheap. So when you send your documents and you opt into a cheaper ITIN services, here's what could happen here. Your documents could be mailed from Mumbai, Karachi, or Bangkok, then gets reviewed by someone who doesn't even understand the tax law, gets mailed to the IRS location in Austin, Texas. And as a side note, because they are not US based, this whole process adds about 2 to 4 weeks to the waiting time. And if something goes wrong, a document gets lost, or there's a small mistake on your application, you're dealing with customer service that's halfway around the globe, who may not even speak English as their first language. And I've seen people wait 8 months to just find out that their application was rejected because they opted into a cheaper ITIN service. You save $100, you save $50 or whatnot. So as you see, I'm pretty passionate about this issue because I've seen non-US business owners get frustrated because they just chose the wrong company to opt in with this service. But here's the good news. When you decide to work with my team, who are, by the way, based directly in the US, in Miami, we've got a team of certified acceptance agents, and we've done this about 500 different times for non-US business owners. And this means no overseas delays, no communication issues. Instead, Instead, you can get your ITIN in as little as 12 weeks. So if you're serious about doing this the right way, click the link below to check out our services. And again, we like to be reasonable with our costs, so take a look. But here's what I really want you to understand. The biggest cost is waiting. Every month you're not building US credit is a month you're missing out on hundreds of opportunities. See, let's say you run an e-commerce business and you're spending about $50,000 a month on ads, inventory, and whatnot. You're probably paying your expenses with a debit card or a foreign credit card, and that typically gets you no cash back, no rewards, no points. But if you had US business credit cards, let's say the Chase Inc. Business Preferred, you'd be earning 3 points per advertising dollar that you spend. That is 150,000 points per month, or 1.8 million points per year. And by the way, those points are worth roughly $54,000, which you can either redeem in cashback or in first class travel. So by not having an ITIN, you're literally leaving 5 figures on the table, which makes me frustrated because there's so many entrepreneurs that can do this. And that's just one credit card. Let's not even mention the opportunities you get with business funding, the even better credit cards you can get your hands on, like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Amex Platinum. The opportunity costs of not having an ITIN can quickly add up to 6 figures. I get it. Getting an ITIN feels like complicated, bureaucratic paperwork. Not exciting or sexy if you're doing it all alone. But here's the truth. The ITIN is the foundation that everything else is built on. Without it, you're locked out of the most powerful financial system in the world. And with it, you have access to the same tools, same opportunities that any US citizen has. The choice is yours. You can keep doing business the hard way, paying full price for everything, missing out on rewards, struggling to get approved for basic financial services. Or you can click the link below and allow me and my team to help you get your ITIN in as little as 12 weeks. But here's what I needed to understand. We only process a limited amount of ITIN paperwork every month. Not because we want to be exclusive, but because we want to make sure that each client gets the attention that they deserve through this process. So if you're serious about getting access to American credit, or if you're tired of being locked out of the American financial system, or if you want to start earning rewards from the same money that you're already spending right now, do not wait. The longer you wait, the longer it will take to build your US credit history, which will get you access to those premium US credit cards, business funding, payment processing, banking. So click the link below, get your ITIN in as little as 12 weeks. Your future self, the one with US Amex credit cards and 6 figures in 0% interest business funding, will thank you. I'll see you in the next video.